drill. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. This is a drill.
Okay. Hey guys, this is Julian of Julian Gray Media. Something screwed up. I don't have my picture behind me. All of my assets got rearranged because I redid my file configuration on my computer, so I don't have like the Patreon. But basically, there's usually a Patreon logo behind me here, and that's because these streams are for patrons of the channel to submit music that they write, or I guess project files that they write, so that they can get critiques on their project files. So if you're interested in submitting one of your songs next month, make sure to check out my Patreon page, and that link will be in the description below. So basically, the reason I do this is because when I do a feedback stream in the traditional sense, where I just give feedback on a stereo bounce, it prevents me from getting really in-depth feedback, because I can't tell what's going on in your project file. So this is more similar or akin to something like a private lesson, just live so that everybody can see it. So today we have, I think, 4 project files, maybe 5, and again, they're all patrons. I'm going to switch over to my main screen here. So you can see, hello, this is Ableton Live 10, and we're just going to load in some projects that we have today. I'm not sure of the names of the people who wrote these projects, but if I work on your project today, make sure to get back to me on Patreon, and we will get you the project file back. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and launch this project file, the first one of many, Arcane Flattened Project. I'm not sure who sent this in. I'll have to check in the aftermath. If you sent this project in, make sure to let everybody know in the comment section. Getting it all launched. Okay, I don't have Pro-L, and I don't have LFO tool. And all of your samples are missing, so this is probably not a usable project file. Let me see if there's any way I can recover these. Probably not. And the next time, though, you're gonna have to definitely check your resources a bit here. I don't see a sample folder, and unfortunately, because of that, this project will not open. So that kind of negates Arcane. Sorry, man. Next month, send in a thing with the sample project collected and saved. So we're gonna go ahead and load Javelin 21. I don't think the stream is lagging, but let me know if it is. I don't see any frame drops on my end. Yeah. Cool. And so the first project didn't work, unfortunately. Sorry about that. And we're just gonna load the second one up, if it'll load at all. If I'm quiet, it's good. Cool. Yeah. Alright, I'll turn the mic up a little bit. Is that any better?
It sounds good. It's like
Okay.
a 3-second delay, so you're good.
Yeah.
That's standard.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and play this one through. This is Javelin. I'm not sure whose project this is, but we're gonna take a look at it and see what's going on in this project file. I've been informed by my roommate that the stream is fine. Check. Okay, is it quiet now? I just adjusted it. It shouldn't be. It's good? Cool. Okay. Apparently, we're good. If it's a problem down the road, keep letting me know and I'll adjust it. But I don't think it's a big issue right now. Here, I'll just put it up a little bit more. Check. Yeah, there we go. So I look younger. Interesting. Okay, cool. So now it's at good volume, and let's go ahead and replay this song. Too loud? There we go. Cool. Sounding really good, actually. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like modern Darude. I don't know if it's your delay time or if it's my computer, but I don't think it's my computer, but my CPU is maxing when I hit this drop here. It's probably because I'm encoding at such a high bit rate for the video. I generally don't run into this problem on my own. So I'm thinking that you hear that decay time on that bouncy ARP. I believe that's what's really killing it, because when you start overlaying decay times, it boosts your CPU way up. I'm gonna try to isolate that and turn the decay time down. It's not that. That's just the arrangement. There it is, ARP. Yeah, that's way too long of a decay time. I'm gonna see if I can find that, and there it is. Yeah, this is too long. So feeding a infinite like decay like this into a reverb is gonna create like a crazy amount of delay on your CPU. So I'm gonna dial that back. Submissions are in Ableton format only. Yes. And the thing is, you don't even need that much feedback, because it's just going to feedback into itself and create mud. So that's a good way to dial it in anyway, just to save your CPU. So. So the biggest thing I noticed with this one is the transitions from this section here into the drop is very kind of lackluster, I'd say. There's not enough tension building. See, that kind of just goes into the next section. What I'm going to do is actually give a high pass here. It seems like he has one already. This is actually he has it labeled as a low cut. I don't want to use this because it's off. I'm not going to mess with his processing there. I'm just going to add in a new high cut, or high pass filter here. So we're going to do an auto filter, and we're going to do a high pass like this. Have you heard anything by Electricato or Mr. Bill? Yes, me and Mr. Bill have a collab in the works. It's going to come out within a year or so. So what I'm going to do is high pass this section before the drop, if you will, which is right here. It's going to build tension. It stops freezing like that. Try something here. We're just running into like a crazy I can't lower my sample rate either. Unfortunately, that's not going to be fixed very much. It's totally going to be the video encode for the stream that's doing it. Unfortunately, sorry guys, the glitch isn't going to happen. So basically what I just did though is high pass a section before the drop happened. Unfortunately, these are already flattened. Maybe I can flatten something, but I don't think it's going to help that much. The biggest culprit here, I think, is this delay. I don't know, but I'm gonna high pass the section right before the drop so that all of the bass is removed, and when it comes back in, then the bass will be exaggerated because we're used to not hearing the bass there anyway. Let's go ahead and go back a little bit here. Fix any other problems I have with this. This is actually a really well done song. The mix is actually pretty nice too. There's not a ton of mixing problems that I would fix with this. It's more subjective than anything. Like maybe I turn the kick up a little bit. A few decibels. I don't know if you have anything on the master either. Yeah. That's also a culprit because your master is, as you can see, when I disable the master, it goes up 10% in CPU. It's just a CPU killer right there. So what I'm going to do is just dial this up. I don't even know that you really need all of this. I'm just going to use a utility here, or I'll use the volume and I'll turn it up maybe 7 decibels. Let's do like -3. Now we're not hitting the CPU ceiling as much. I think something to work on here is to add some bass. I see that you're starting to do it. But even more to exaggerate this, I would go for a really like gnarly bass sound right after this build instead of going back to these pads here, because when you go back to the pads, it's kind of like you're retreating. I can't tell what that is, because it's muted or something. Yeah, you have your utility all the way down. I don't know why. That's generally not the best way to do a mute out either. I would toggle the actual mute switch on here, which is right here. So yeah, you had like automated the gain all the way down. That's kind of weird. I can't tell if there's any notes on this or not. Yeah, there is. And it sounds like there's like a very floaty sound. I can't tell which one that is. I guess it's one of these guys. I'm gonna turn this whole bus down. It's a little bit too much in your face. And what I'm gonna do is actually low pass it just a tad so it pushes it back into the mix a little bit more. Because when you have something very high in your face, it's gonna sound very close to you and very present in the mix. When you start to bury the top end, it's like walking out of a club. You can hear the sub through the wall, but you can't hear the high end through the wall. And you can kind of use that like psychology to force something into the background a little bit more, because we perceive high frequencies as closer to us. If we were to boost this, it's going to sound closer. If we lower it or remove it, it's going to sound farther away. So notice how already with this small little EQ curve, it's going to sound farther and into the background more. For some reason this still isn't making sound. Oh, I had the mute on. There we go. Maybe just do the sub here or something like that. And again, Tidris, your biggest downfall, I think, is overthinking your stuff. This master bus is just way too complicated, in my personal opinion. Some people would do a similar thing. I like to keep my master very simple. I might do like, I see you have Ozone 7. I'll use that instead of 8. I'll just do this, a single maximizer or something like that to give it some volume. But other than that, I don't really do too much on my master, especially with third-party plugins. As far as these plucks go, I don't know that you need this sub layer here because I just added the sub back to the top. I'm gonna go ahead and just mute this out for a minute, and we'll work on these layers here to get it sounding good. Instead of scooping out so much of the mid, maybe we'll leave some of the low end, and then we'll use that to our advantage. And I noticed that you're boosting the mids. That's going to be kind of counterintuitive because, like I just said, when you lower the top end, it's going to push it back into the mix. And the opposite of lowering the top end is boosting the mid end. So if you were to add to the low end in basic engineering, the theory of it is if you were to add here, it's the equivalent of pulling this down, because if you were to boost everything, this right here is the exact same curve as this right here. It's just the relative gain of it all. So by boosting this bottom end, you're actually burying the top end. And if we were to boost the top end, then it's going to make it more present. Forcing the mid will not push it out of the mix, but removing the top end is going to push it back into the mix. Like because of that psychology I was just mentioning, the more dry and the louder and the higher pitch the sound is, the closer we perceive it. Another thing with reverb, if you put too much reverb, it gets drowned. It sounds like it's in the background, but you can use that to your advantage because you can push some elements into the back and keep some up front. And I would personally make this sub just a little bit more aggressive, like give it some of that. Same idea for this guy here. I want to kind of put this into the background just a little bit more. And you can't have too many things in the forefront, otherwise they start taking away from each other. So I'm going to try to put this a little bit further into the back by doing that trick again. I think this guy right here should be the forefront of the drop for sure. And you're mixing dangerously loud, as you can see. You're mid-chain clipping the entire time, and that's not good practice. You're going to want to dial everything back like 10 decibels and try that out. Hey, Josh. That's a Dubspot teacher back when Dubspot was a thing. He's awesome. An Ableton certified trainer. And again, everything in this track is just really loud. I would personally dial everything back maybe 5 decibels, and then you'll have more headroom to master and you'll have more headroom to mix. So I can't spend all my time on this one. This one's already sounding quite good. I'll give it like a play maybe from the breakdown into the drop and show you the smaller things I changed, and then we'll move on to the next project. even like add some distortion or something to this to make it really aggressive. Maybe we can try that quickly before I move on. Because I feel like there's a lot here that you can do. But again, we're hitting that top end headroom ceiling, so play with it. That's what I would do. And again, that high pass before the drop trick is definitely important because you want to remove as much bass as you can before that drop so that the bass really slaps you. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this, and I'll send back to you. This is Tydris. He's in the chat, and he makes great music. Go check him out. And we'll move on to the next one. So let me collect all and save. Yeah, it was quite good. Okay, open live set. Where was it? Desktop, patron, fix your projects. Okay, so we did Javelin. We have Entice. I'm not sure who did this one. I don't have them labeled, unfortunately. The next time we do this, guys, please put your names in the project files so I can give you guys credit. Unfortunately, I can't really do that here because I don't know who sent in each one of these. Whoever sent in Entice, please let me know in the chat in the side, and if it's none of you guys, then I'll let you know in the description when I post the video. Let's give this thing a play and see what we've got here. Josh Best, thanks, man. I know the colors are so nice. There's a lot of potential in this one. I can already hear it. It's gonna be all in the mixing, and I'll show you guys how we can fix this one up. Let's see if he goes anywhere with this. Okay. So I feel like this section right here is completely unnecessary because this is exactly the same as this. It's just that this one has the bass. So what I'm gonna do, and obviously you have a localized version of this, I'm just gonna delete this section so we can save time, and you can build right into that drop instead of just waiting like that because it kind of dropped awkwardly. So, and we're gonna mix this thing so it sounds really good. So first things first, I want to fix that kick drum. This is just too quiet and too soft. What I'm going to do is use an EQ on this, and we're going to cut some of the mid out, give it a high boost so it comes through a little more. Maybe give it a low boost even. I want this to be the forefront of the song. Let's see. This is our snare, I see. And that has a little awkward low end to it, so I'm gonna cut that out right here. I really want it to spike through. And then we can do the percussion. So what I'm going to do is actually pan these around a little bit here. I'm going to throw this one to the left maybe. I'll throw this one to the right. Put this one far right. I'll put this one a little bit to the left, maybe like 27, and then we'll do this one centered. That's how I do my percussion. Is the volume my microphone volume, or is it the sound in the DAW? Because the DAW I can turn up, the mic is kind of peaking now. I can just dial that up just a little bit for you here. I want that snare to really punch. So to make that punch, I'm going to dial the percussion back a little bit. So here we go with the kick. You can add some like distortion or something to that kick to make it sound a little better. I'm going to try a drum bus out. It's got a really cool drum distortion. Cool. I'm going to toss that before the EQ actually. So the thing about putting reverb on a snare is that it kind of pushes it into the background. The way we can get around that, if you really want me to try it, we get around that by using a low mix amount so that it's a parallel processed reverb like this. Because you want the transient of the clap to come through. If you don't, if you put the mix high, pushes it into the background. And I want the forefront. I want the clap to be in the forefront. So I'm gonna do this. And then we're going to catch some of those low resonances in there, or I should say the low echoes of that, and we're going to catch it in a compressor, and we're going to boost them up like this. Cool. So the compressor is basically leveling it out so that it's taking the quieter echoes of the snare and giving it some high volume, or increasing it in volume. I'm going to kind of open this up a little bit. And I want this reverb to sit in the background, so I'm going to reduce the high cut. And this is basically going to cut the top end at 6,000 hertz or whatever it is that we're dealing with here, 6K. And if we do that, then we're not going to cloud up the top end, which is again where we perceive close to us. It's a little too much, I think. Cool, and that's sounding pretty good, and I want to get this bass sitting right now. So this is cool. It's working okay. I'm going to add in a lower level to this, or a lower layer to this, so we can get some more sub action going. I'm going to change this to a saw wave. Something's up. Ah, this is what it is. Ditch that. Yeah. And maybe we'll do some FM on that to make it a little bit more gnarly. that in with the kick drum and then the snare and see how that sounds. I'm going to dial everything back. I'm going to turn everything down so I can give some more exaggeration to that, to the kick drum. I want the kick to really poke through. I'm going to ungroup that actually. We got to sidechain this a little bit better. This is not good right now. I'm going to cut this from this channel. I'm going to put it on the bus so we can sidechain that entire bass group together. I'm going to grab the kick drum instead of the ghost channel. I don't know why that's so loud. That's why. So you're boosting your gain for some reason. We're gonna listen to the little click of the kick drum instead of doing this like extreme gain. I don't know what that was about. We're gonna listen to the little click of the kick, and you do this by doing sidechain from kick at a gain of 1 decibel. Anything above, as you can see here, above 3 kilohertz, we're going to cut to this threshold. As we increase that release time, we get the more groovy, pumpy sound. And this is kind of a very stereo sound. I want to increase that and make it even more stereo. I'm going to throw a delay on it. Let's see if this will do it. Like that, yeah. Let's go ahead and just serum here again and play with the sound a little bit more. I'm going to go for a saw wave here. Sounds like we have like a low pass or something on it. Yeah, this here. It's doing that. I'm gonna do this. Okay. So I don't want it to be too aggressive, but want it to come through a little bit more. The reason I'm doing a delay instead of a dimension expander is because dimension expanders and Haas effects don't work well in mono. I use them all the time, but something like that, I think it would lend itself to a delay anyway, a ping pong delay, so I'm going to use that instead. Makes it more interesting too. Can do some like, let's try an OTT on this guy. Let's give it some low end. bring those drums back in. Again, turn it down. I don't like to hit the ceiling at any point. And we'll turn up the synth bus a little bit. Just to bring this up in volume, I'm going to use an iZotope Ozone. I think I'll do a 7 because most people don't have 8. If you have 8 and you're in the chat, then let me know, and then we're going to do this. Ungroup these. Actually, these have nothing to do with each other. Immediately, everything's kind of coming together much better than it was before. So I'm going to go ahead and do an auto filter. Same trick we did on Tidris's track on this lead here, right before the drop. So I'm going to enable automation mode like that. And then we're going to do an auto filter sweep up like so. And then we're going to do that. Copy this to here as well. We might even be able to add some interest if we use a ping pong delay on this as well. I'm just going to do a top end delay because again that's perceived as closer and more in your face. So I'm going to do that, reduce the feedback time, and just see how this sounds. Grab that side chain and throw that on the synth bus as well because it's not, and I'm gonna put it on the Elite as well. So everything should be side chained in this style. Not so aggressively though on this because it's not as necessary. And I think that's sounding much better than where we started with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and collect all and save this. And we'll move on to the next one. This is a really, really good entry. And I think that minute changes to it made it significantly stronger of a song. So this one was largely mixing. I didn't really change too much. It's all the mix. And that's pretty much it. Much better. Julian, do you think the bottom end needs to pump harder for that mwah mwah groove? You could. I mean, you could even push this further than it is. Like so. It's all opinionated and subjective. I don't think it really necessarily needs it. Okay, on to the next one. That one's tight. Let's go to Patron Fix Your Project. We did Entice and we did Javelin. Now we have Freedom by Remnant. And again, if you send in a song next month, make sure to put your name in it, because it's hard for me to tell who's who if not. I don't know who did this one. Oh, Remnant did this one. I'll load it up and see what we're working with here. Cool. How you guys doing today? Hope you're doing good. Okay, I don't have silent, which might be an issue, but I really need to get silent. Here we go. This one's very quiet. What I'm gonna do is just toss the limiter on this from the get-go. Get it up to volume here. It's very quiet. Are missing though, I think. Yeah, unfortunately. Next time, make sure to collect all and save your project. This one doesn't seem to have collect all and saved. And it's a shame because it sounds like a really cool project file. Maybe we can work on this one next month. But unfortunately, I don't have the samples used, and it's very quiet, so. I actually am okay with how stereo the bass is. If it was mixed properly with the rest of the drums, which I have a feeling it is, I'm all right with the stereo bass. My basses are very like wide actually in my stuff, which is very controversial. I use like 7-voice unison ultra wide on my basses, and a lot of people hate it, but I love it. So progression's really cool. There's not much I can do on this one because it's not collected all and saved, and that means that we can't really see the samples used, but the progression does sound really cool. Reminds me of the Velt. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open the last one then, because this one I can't really work on. The next time though, or if you're a $100 patron or above, maybe we can work on this in a private session. But I like this a lot. You go follow Remnant. He's in the chat. And the next month we'll work on it after we get that sorted. So the last one is Coab 1 ALS. And don't save. Yeah, I agree with Systemis, who's an incredible artist, by the way. Wide bass makes for a fuller track. Yeah. I mono sub, but I don't mono bass ever. Okay. Let's see this. It should be loaded. Of course, I don't have silent again. If that's gonna be an issue, I might just buy it. Yeah, I don't have silent. Well, that kind of puts it under that because I don't have silent either. Maybe we can just toss serum on. Unfortunately, he didn't label it, so I don't know what's a pluck and what's a synth or whatever. That's a beautiful progression, though. Like, really good. I'm gonna assume this is a pluck of sorts. Like, I'm just gonna shoot in the dark and say this is a pluck. You recorded into a track, eh? Where is that? Down here? I don't see where that is. Silent stuff into an audio track. Is this it right here? Okay, well, the sample's offline too. Unfortunately, the collect all and save didn't work, I guess. Maybe this would be a good opportunity to show you guys why you need to collect all and save. Because this has been a consistent problem for 3 of the tracks today, and this is the last of the tracks, so I might as well show you. So because I can't work on this without the audio samples or silent, unfortunately. So if we were to make a new project, right, I'll show you why you collect all and save and what it actually does. Let's say that I start a new project and I save this project, let's say on my desktop, demo, right? What Ableton will do is it'll make a folder called demo project, and as you see in the project there's a demo ALS file and then there's a project info folder. So the second you add a sample to this, let's say we add in a Black Octopus sample, like something stupid like anything, the second you add a sample to this, Ableton's project file via that info folder here is reading this sample from the directory you dragged it in from. So it's going to be reading from whatever this folder is on my hard drive, like whatever it is, C Black Octopus Lev Crash 46 or whatever /symbol/ crash. So if I was to move this sample, it's going to lose the reference because it's going to look for it in this folder here that doesn't exist anymore. So what collect all and save does is it collects these files from external sources like that. If we were to collect all and save and we checked all of these, hit OK, as you see right here as we did that, it made a folder called samples and it says imported, and it moves or copies all of the samples that were used outside of the Ableton project into this samples folder. So that way, if I was to send this folder to somebody else, all of the sample used in the project will be in this folder from then on. And that eliminates the reason, or that eliminates the problem of losing samples, because the samples will always be with the project file. And that's another reason why you use a separate project for every single, or a separate project folder for every single project. If I was to make another project and I saved it into this demo project folder and I collected all and saved, all the sample directories from within this project and the next project will all be collected into the same folder. So then it becomes a real mess when you have to separate a project file for storage reasons. So if I made another project and I saved it in here and collected all and saved, it would copy all of the samples from that project too into this imported folder because it's just seeing the directory. It's going to copy it into there by default. So then if I need to separate this demo folder or this demo project from the other one, then I have to differentiate which projects are which. That's a big mess. So that's the reason why you do this. And if you don't collect all and save, then if you send the project to somebody else, is going to try to reference that folder, this one say, on your hard drive. And obviously their hard drive isn't the same as yours, so it won't appear, and then you get that sample offline error. You need to collect all and save if you've already done it before. Like if you just save, will it update the ALS sample file? So the project file here has nothing to do with the samples in the folder. So let's say I load this now, right? Instead of loading from this reference point, this is now loading from this sample folder. If I was to delete this file here, let's say I moved it to the trash, and then I opened up the project again, you're going to see what happens. Now it's offline, and it says right here it's offline. And this is what happens if you were to send this project to a friend and you don't have it collected all and saved, because then the samples won't be in the sample folder. So that's why you do it. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you today. Unfortunately, some of the projects today, and that's why we got into this conversation, didn't properly collect all and save or freeze plugins. And hopefully that won't be an issue in next month's stream. Maybe I'll do a pre-screen of all the project files beforehand so we don't have this issue on camera again. So yeah, that is this month's patron-only Fix Your Project stream. I hope you learned something from the 2 or 3 projects we got to today. And if you're one of the people whose projects I worked on today, great job. And get back to me on Patreon, and we will I will send the projects back your way so you can study what I did to them. Anyway, I'm Julian of Julian Gray Media. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you're interested in sending in your project for next month's stream, or if you're interested in private lessons at all, make sure to check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/JulianGray. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. I make 3 videos a week, and I will talk to you next month. Bye-bye.